It was a hot summer day when my friends and I decided to explore the abandoned mental hospital on the outskirts of town. We had heard stories about the place for years, about the patients who had been mistreated and abused, about the experiments that had been conducted there, about the spirits that still haunted the halls. But we were young and fearless, and we didn't believe in ghosts. We thought it would be fun to explore the creepy old building and see what secrets it held. We parked our cars on the side of the road and made our way through the overgrown weeds and broken fence that surrounded the property. The hospital was even creepier up close. The windows were broken, the walls were covered in graffiti, and there was an eerie silence that hung over the place. We made our way inside and started to explore. The first floor was mostly empty, just a few scattered pieces of furniture and broken equipment. But as we climbed higher, we started to notice strange things. Doors that would open and close on their own, shadows that seemed to move in the corners of our vision, and strange whispers that we couldn't quite make out. We tried to brush it off as our imagination, but the feeling of unease only grew stronger as we explored. We made our way to the top floor, where the old operating room was located. As we approached the room, we heard a strange noise coming from inside, a soft humming, like someone was singing to themselves. We cautiously pushed open the door and were met with a sight that will haunt me forever. There was a woman, dressed in a white hospital gown, standing in the center of the room. She was humming a soft tune and didn't seem to notice us at first, but then, she turned her head, and her eyes locked onto ours. They were empty and soulless, like there was nothing behind them. She started to walk towards us, her humming growing louder and more frantic. We turned to run, but the door slammed shut on its own, trapping us in the room with the woman. She was getting closer and closer, her humming turning into a guttural scream. We were trapped, with no way out. The woman was almost on top of us, her mouth twisted into a gruesome smile, when suddenly, everything went black. When we woke up, we were outside the hospital, lying in the grass. We were bruised and disoriented, but otherwise unharmed. We never spoke about what happened in the hospital again, but we all knew that something had followed us out, something that was still out there, waiting for its next victim. It all started when I moved into an old Victorian house in the countryside. It was a beautiful house, with high ceilings, ornate moldings, and grand fireplaces. But there was something off about it, something that made me uneasy. At first, it was just little things, doors that would open and close on their own, cold spots that would appear out of nowhere, and strange noises that I couldn't explain. But as time went on, the occurrences became more and more frequent, and more terrifying. I started to see things, dark shapes moving in the corners of my vision, disappearing when I turned to face them. I could hear whispers in the night, voices that seemed to be coming from inside the walls, and every so often, I would catch a glimpse of something that looked like a person, but not quite. Something that was half human, half something else. I tried to ignore it, tried to convince myself that I was just imagining things. But then, one night, something happened that I couldn't explain away. I was lying in bed, trying to sleep, when I heard a noise outside my bedroom door. It sounded like someone was walking down the hallway. I got out of bed and opened the door, but there was no one there. I thought maybe it was just the old house settling, so I went back to bed. But then, the footsteps started again, louder this time. I got up again, and again, there was no one there. That's when I saw it, a figure, standing at the end of the hallway. It was dark, and I couldn't make out any features, but I knew it wasn't human. It was something else. Something that shouldn't be there. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure started to move towards me, and I felt like I was being suffocated. I could feel its breath on my face, even though there was no one there, and then, it was gone, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. I was left standing in the hallway, shaking and gasping for breath. After that night, things only got worse. I would wake up in the middle of the night, covered in scratches and bruises that I couldn't explain. I started to see the figure more and more often, always lurking in the shadows, watching me. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. I tried smudging the house with sage, but it only made things worse. I tried talking to a priest, but he wouldn't even set foot in the house. I was alone, with whatever was haunting me. One night, I woke up to find the figure standing at the foot of my bed. It was closer than it had ever been before, and I could see its face, or lack thereof. It was just a black void, like a hole in the fabric of reality. I couldn't take it anymore. I fled the house, leaving everything behind. I never went back, and I never spoke about what happened to me in that old Victorian house. But I know that whatever was there is still there, waiting for its next victim, and I pray that it's not you. I've always been fascinated with the supernatural, especially the unexplainable. As a paranormal investigator, I've been to many haunted locations, but nothing could have prepared me for what I experienced at the abandoned asylum. The building stood tall and eerie, with broken windows and overgrown weeds. My team and I entered cautiously, making our way through the darkness with only our flashlights to guide us. It wasn't long before we started to hear strange noises, like whispers and footsteps coming from the empty halls. As we made our way deeper into the asylum, the noises became more pronounced. We could hear doors slamming shut and objects moving, but there was no one there. The temperature started to drop, and we could see our breath in the air. Suddenly, a door slammed shut behind us, trapping us in the room. We tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. That's when we heard the laughter, a chilling, maniacal laugh that echoed through the halls. We knew we weren't alone. Panic set in as we realized we were trapped with whatever was haunting the asylum. We could hear it getting closer, its footsteps echoing through the halls. We huddled together, our flashlights trained on the door, waiting for whatever was on the other side to reveal itself. And then it did. The door creaked open, revealing a figure in the darkness. It was a woman, dressed in a torn and tattered hospital gown, her hair wild and unkempt. Her eyes glowed red in the darkness, and her skin was a sickly shade of gray. We tried to run, but the woman was too fast. She chased us through the halls, her laughter echoing through the empty rooms. We could hear other spirits joining in, their voices haunting us as we tried to escape. Finally, we found our way out of the asylum and back into the fresh air. But the horror didn't end there. We could feel their presence following us, their voices whispering in our ears. We knew we would never be the same again, haunted by the experience of the abandoned asylum.